if they, as they do come in. I did go ahead and put down that link you gave us into the chat here for others, that website with help for landlords and our tenants that may need some assistance during these times. So I did put that down in the chat right there. So if anybody wants that link, we did put it on the website, but a lot of things get lost on the website for some reason. So I'm going to make sure you have it. If anybody does need it, please go ahead and send me an email and I'll send it to you. So, okay, we do want to welcome Kathy Davis. I see Chris Bosler up there from Davis Travellini and LLC with our weekly updates. I'm John Lee with the STL St. Louis REIA. This is our weekly updates with the courts. So Kathy, welcome. And what do we got going on this week?
Well, this has been kind of a busy week. You may have seen in the papers that the city suspended executions again. We were fortunate enough to I was able to talk to the presiding judge, Judge Burleson, about it before he actually issued his order. And so we got a couple of exceptions in, and we got, some good time with him talking about how this is hard for our landlords. And so I have something that I want you guys to do. If you go, I was just trying to find the exact link, but if you go on the St. Louis City website, they have a COVID page where there's an application for renters and homeowners to apply for relief, and they have a bunch of money. And Judge Burleson seems to think that landlords would qualify for this money. I don't think that's true. I think it's renters and homeowners. I don't think they're talking about investors. But if someone has property in the city where they have a mortgage, if they would like to go on the city website and fill this thing out and apply for it and see if you get the money, I'd really like to know. As an investor, not as, a resident of the property.
Mm-hmm.
Because the argument that I'm making to Judge Burleson, of course, is, nothing's being done for the landlords. The tenants are getting assistance, but the landlords still have to pay, all of their expenses, the mortgages, the maintenance, the property taxes, the utilities that they pay. And, that there's renters who are racking up big bills and they're unlikely to ever be able to pay it. So this is in the city that we're talking about here. And I see that you just put up the link for the county, and we'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, we also got Judge Burleson to agree to give a stop date to his order of September 1st. It's possible that he'll extend it. Okay. He's agreed to talk with us again before he does. And we also got him to exempt commercial evictions because they're not going to be eligible for this, this relief money. Mm-hmm. And we got him to exempt the 441s, the evictions that we do under Chapter 441 of the Missouri statutes, where it's like drug-related or crime or, just really egregious bad behavior. So we can go forward with sheriff executions on those kinds of evictions. We made the argument that, those are people who are causing harm, and we have a reason to expedite getting them out. So we exempted those. We asked him to exempt unlawful detainers. He didn't do that because we said, an unlawful detainer, their tenancy is over, and so we're not taking any money. So it's not going to help anybody on either side for them to get these funds because we're not going to accept it. They need to go. And he said, well, they can use the money to move to a new place. Mm-hmm. So we didn't win on unlawful detainers, although he did tell me that he might consider some cases on a case-by-case basis. So we're going to start taking cases to him case by case and see if we can persuade him to let us go forward. In fact, Chris, after we're done here, I want to get that filed with the flooding basement and everything. And maybe that will be the first one that I'll go to him and talk about the specific circumstances.
Okay.
But there's two things that also went on with this order by Judge Burleson. One was that Dr. Garza, who's head of the regional COVID task force, asked him to do this. And apparently he has some special, pandemic type powers to start and stop things. And since the order ended with a specific date and everything, we probably can't fight it in court. And the second thing is Judge Burleson had heard about these millions of dollars the city was getting to pay rent, and he wanted to give tenants a time to a little bit of time to actually do this. And I will say this, the city, he has ordered his deputy juvenile officers that aren't busy, because I guess they don't have a lot of juveniles locked up right now or whatever, I don't know. But he has had them going out to speak to tenants that are, that have judgments and have executions, and try to get them, help them get this money. And I think they are supposed to pay the money directly to the landlord, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I think if we have that situation where the tenant got money and they didn't give the, for rent, and they didn't give it to the landlord, I think we'd be able to, persuade them to let us evict them. Since he's got these DJOs going out and talking to the tenants, he sent me a list of names of tenants that the DJOs found out had moved. And we've been looking in our files to match this up with our files and letting our landlords know, out of those people, hey, the court says these people have moved, so you can take possession of them. Anything else about Judge Burleson that we want to say, Chris?
No, I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay. So
I guess I would say that if you're concerned about filing new cases, this likely does not affect you at all. This only really affects people who already have judgments. Were he to extend it, yes, it could affect you, but most likely, particularly if you're filing on your own, this will probably won't affect you at all, because I'm hearing you're getting court dates in October. But even if you're filing with an attorney, unless it's extended, this will not affect your ability to get your tenants out. So don't be afraid to, if you have someone you're wanting to evict, to move forward with it because of this.
Yeah, we continue to believe that that we're, you're better off filing, because then you're in line. The initial executions that the city sheriffs were doing when they started up again at the beginning of July were people who had had judgments since January or February. So they're going from oldest to newest. So anyway, we're continuing to work on that. And I feel like Judge Burleson was very reasonable with me when I talked to him. And so I feel like, going forward, I think we're going to be able to continue to get some relief there.
The one thing I'm hearing about this money that's available, there's $1,000, basically a $5 million pot, but it's $1,000 a tenant out there to be had if your tenants apply for it. And you have to go through a mediation process, but it's really, they're slowing down our cases because of it, but really it's designed to stop cases from even getting filed. So if you have tenants who August is their first month that they are behind, you may tell them, hey, reach out and get this money, particularly if they owe less than $1,000, and you might be able to, at least delay you having to file against them until September if you can get this money, because that money is going to be paid. The tenant applies for it, you go through some mediation, and then it gets basically, as I understand it, a day or two, as long as everyone qualifies, it gets paid directly to you, the landlord, by this organization. The CRC organization. I'm actually doing my first mediation with them probably this afternoon on one that we're already filed. But it's a little bit hairy after you've already filed, particularly if someone owes $3,000-$4,000. But if you only owe $1,000, it gets to, it appears to be something that might be pretty useful for your folks who just, now that unemployment's running out, maybe they come to you for the first time going, hey, I can't pay this month's rent.
And I was just flipping around on the city website trying to see what else I could find, because I heard a different limit. I heard 3,500. So we don't really know, but there's a lot of stuff on here. There is a lot of resources for small businesses too, where small businesses can get grants. And I think a landlord's a small business, unless they're a big business, you have a lot of units. So I would encourage you to go on to the St. Louis City website and check around there to see if you can get any help. And I would also encourage you to, John posted the link just now to the page in the county to go on there and look, because they have similar programs. It's all federal money, and they have similar programs to help tenants and to help small businesses and that kind of stuff. So if we have to be not executing on our judgments for a while, we're hoping that you can at least get some funds. Chris, do you want to talk about how the evictions how the court dates are going in the city?
I mean, the My court dates are going, I mean, I'm having to be more flexible than we used to be, but the judge in this, my judge in the city has made an exception for, they've brought in an extra judge essentially to only do landlord tenant dockets. So they're giving, but only attorneys only are getting into that. I've got folks I know who have filed by themselves that are getting out in October, but I'm getting dates 3-4 weeks out like normal for the time being. So that is moving fairly smoothly. The process, once you get to the court, is a little bit more onerous. We're not able to get as many consent judgments as we used to because we're not face-to-face. And so some tenants, they don't respond to phone calls. They're not doing it. So, I mean, I've got 7 trials on Monday because of that. So it's one of these, we're getting in and it's getting done. It's just a lot more work on our end and on the court's end to make sure it's going smoothly.
Yeah, it is. And I think that we're still in a pretty steep learning curve. The trials are interesting. We're figuring out how to get exhibits in and, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I hope you guys are okay. I hope if you can, that you can go on these city and county websites and get some money. I see that Michael asked about the county. Yeah, and right above, if you go to the chat, to the thing, you can see right above where John posted the link to the county page. And I don't have the link for the city, but if you go on the city website, I was just looking at it, it talks about click here for COVID-19 and go there and follow it. And there's a lot of stuff. Okay. And I see that Ann said a mediation representative set up to 3,500. I've heard that too. I mean, we're going to be really interested in the upcoming weeks to have you guys come back on this chat and tell us, if you've been able to get money, what your experience was, how you're doing. With respect to the county, Christine has an appointment out of the office right now, but we had another docket yesterday. Our Judge Lassiter, is doing great. In the county, they use Zoom so we can go to the breakout rooms with tenants. So we pretty much got almost all of our cases resolved of the people who showed up yesterday. So it's almost like back to normal, except we're just not there physically in the courtroom. We took a bunch of defaults. We got a bunch of consent judgments. I think I told you before that Christine worked out this genius idea about DocuSign. Mm-hmm. So we've been able in the city and the county to get, consent judgments signed and then filed back with the court as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. That step after that, where if they don't do the terms of the consent judgment, we want to execute on them, is the part that seems to be difficult right now. I sent the same language to Judge Burton, who's the presiding judge of St. Louis County, that I did to Judge Burleson. When Judge Burleson and I talked, he was very reasonable about the idea that, yeah, you're right. We should be doing commercial evictions. We should be doing 441s. And he's thinking about, the unlawful detainers. And I think he's going to let us go rent and possession soon too, because, his stated reason is to give them time to apply for this money. And if they don't figure out how to do that, then, mm-hmm. then they need to go. Because, you all know, all of you who are landlords, you have these people who just bury their heads in the sand and won't respond and, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So Judge Burton told me that they were going to have a meeting earlier this week in the county about restarting the executions. And I haven't heard back from him yet about the result of the meeting, but I asked him for the same things I had asked Judge Burleson for: the 441s, the commercials, and the unlawful detainers. Boy, I tell you, we're seeing a real uptick in the amount of commercial rent possessions. There's a lot of small businesses going under. But I haven't heard back from them, but we're going to obviously, how we are, we're going to keep following up with them and, trying to persuade them to start letting us do these things. We have a difficulty in the county because I'm very sad to say that a St. Louis County Sheriff's deputy passed away. And he was a guy who served papers on the street, and he had coronavirus. And so we were talking about taking a writ to the Court of Appeals to make the county do something. But we're holding off a little bit because, they just had someone die. And so, we're going to be at the Court of Appeals and they're going to say, yeah, well, our deputy died. And we're going to say, yeah, that's bad. So we're giving that a little time. But I think that we'll get I'm hoping that we'll get Judge Burton and St. Louis County to let us do that soon. We're continuing to make amazing deals for people that have judgments. When I spoke to some of Chris's defendants, I guess maybe it was last week, some of them had already figured out how to apply for the money in the city, and we're in the process of doing it. So we're telling that freely to tenants, because we figure if we can get you guys paid, you know, that's really the desire. So we're working on that a lot. And I'm going to turn it back to Chris to talk about the train wrecks of St. Charles and Jefferson.
Yikes.
Hi, Dwayne.
Well, the St. Charles they went through another freeze and are just back to, right now they're doing landlord tenant only cases for the next couple weeks, and then they're going to go back to normal. Hopefully they've, you know, I don't know if they've really changed anything since their last outbreak, which is because an attorney who lived with a nurse came into court and spent 4 hours in court. And then of course the nurse came down with COVID, and then she came down with COVID. And so everything had to shut down for a couple weeks. So I anticipate St. Charles has not really made any changes. So I imagine that's kind of how St. Charles is going to go, is we're going to go smoothly for a month or so, and then somebody's going to come down with it, and then we're going to shut down for a couple weeks. And so be it. The nice thing is at least St. Charles really has put a priority on landlord tenant cases for the time being. So they are moving with those more so than your collection suits. Jefferson's a whole nother beast. Jefferson, they are still not letting anybody in on associate dockets. I just yesterday got approval from my judge to get individualized case. You know, like I said, a motion to have something heard in person. He'll consider it, particularly for trials for rent and possession and unlawful retainers that I have. But they don't really know what they're doing. I think Jefferson's trying to play catch up and might try to do virtual, but I don't know how soon they're going to figure that out.
Yeah,
So.
Jefferson, it's like, you know, they don't have Zoom down there. What's the deal? They don't have WebEx with the hamsters in the little cage, can't run in the wheel fast enough to power that. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a whole crazy area.
Their courthouse is so small that it was inevitably going to have an outbreak. I mean, that's the nature. I heard it was somebody in their bailiff department got it, which, you know, shut everything down. So that one's still tough, but at least we're kind of, you know, I got to figure out how, you know, I've got a case to file, and I don't know when to file it because I don't want to get it set late September. So we're still trying to work with our clerks, and they're working half days, which is, you know, fun. They don't call me back very often anyway, but getting some answers is tough now.
So we're slugging away. We're reading every day. I go on the New York Times page and I read about what's going on with the vaccines, because I'm hopeful. And for those of you who are interested in technical things, I follow this PhD on Twitter whose name is Lindsay Marr, LINSEYMARR, and she always has great scientific articles about airflow and, you know, that kind of thing. So we've bought some air purifiers for the house, and we might get some here. You know, just like everybody, we're trying to keep everyone safe too while we're doing our work. Are there any more? Oh, Lloyd, hey. Thank you so much. Thank you. I came back. Went to my water aerobics class. I came in late, and Christine's like, "Look what they sent us. It's so generous. It's so nice. We're really pleased." I already had a cookie, which I don't need because of the quarantine 15. But we love Starbucks. That's great. You know, we have a couple that are close to the office. I'm eating a cheese and fruit box from Starbucks right now, and that's a pretty easy thing to do because it's drive-through and everything. So that's much appreciated. Christine was thrilled. She had to go out of the office, or she'd be here too to thank you. I think Chris is assuming that everything he gets is going to go to his wife Bonnie, who's my daughter. But if he can make his wife happy, you know, happy wife, happy life, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Chris, and if you like the baked goods from Sucrose, you probably go by there on your way to the St. Charles Courthouse. It's right at 700 North or South 5th Street.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I drove by there twice today.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cookie I had was very good. I'm trying to stay away from the box now.
They also do European style baked goods too.
Oh,
One of the owners is from Germany.
oh, nice. Yeah, those
Mhm.
people know how to bake.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any other questions or comments? Again, for anybody who joined late, I'm hoping that, because Judge Burleson in the city has told me that landlords are eligible. He thinks landlords are eligible for this rent relief money. I'd really be interested if you guys, if you have rental property in the city, if you can go on and apply for it and see what happens.
Yeah.
I would like to know. I would like to know, because I think it's the answer is you're not going to get it. And I would like to be able to say to him, yeah, you know, the landlord's tried and they can't get this money. They're not eligible. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good tip. I'm going to go there this afternoon and try it and see what I come up with.
See what you can come up with. Yeah.
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 All right, that's great information.
I'd be very interested to hear about the experience in the city or the county applying for this money.
Okay.
You know, maybe when we convene again next week. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I encourage everybody else to try that too. If you got any kind of properties in the city, let's just go apply and see what happens. All they can do is say no.
Right.
I've been told.
And if you have one more thing, if you have an active case, like you're doing a pro se case and you get talked into one of these online mediations, let us know how that goes as well too. My understanding is that they are requiring you to dismiss your case first before you can even apply for the money. So if you have something like that and you want, before you sit down with them and you want some questions from me, I've kind of come up with a workaround to that to protect my clients who the tenants owe more than $1,000 because I don't quite trust the money to be there, even though they tell me it's always going to be there. So if you have any questions about a mediation before you get forced into it for one of these things and you're doing your pro se stuff, give me a call and I'll kind of give you my ideas on what I think the best way to insist on, because otherwise they're going to push you just to dismiss your case under the promise that you'll get this money. So
yeah, I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't be doing that.
I've got a way to do. I've come up with a way to do it, but I also, being an attorney, have an easier time enforcing this workaround. So but it's something. If you guys are if you guys have pro se dockets coming up, they're going to be making you do these mediations because they're making you do it anyway, and there might be some strings attached to getting that money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, anybody have anything else?
Hey, Kathy, Jim Heiser here.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. This is a little bit off this topic of what we've been talking about, but I guess it could be litigation down the road. My wife said she just read about all your blinds and all your places have to go to cordless. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. And if you don't do it down the road, I wonder what kind of implications that would be from a lawsuit or whatever. But this is the first time I ever heard of this. She said she just read that.
Is it a legal requirement or is it an insurance requirement?
I think it was a federal mandate law. It was on Facebook.
I'm not familiar with either. Oh yeah, I'm on Facebook.
And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but yeah, to go back and change all your blinds and all your units to cordless.
You can't always believe everything you read on Facebook and that kind of thing. I have not heard of this. If you can find a site to a federal regulation or something, I'd be happy to pick it up. I will say this. That might be something that even if you don't want to just out and out change everything right now, as you go forward, you might want to change to cordless when you need to. I know that there's a risk of children hanging from those cords.
Yes.
And that could be considered, even if there's not a law requiring that you eliminate them, it could be considered negligence.
I don't even know if you can buy like the mini blinds anymore, corded or not. All the ones I've been getting are all cordless.
Yeah, I found out the state of Missouri has actually banned the retail sales of the corded mini blinds. I found that out last year when I was buying some for my son's place. And they said, I talked to one of the salespeople and they said, oh no, we don't, the state of Missouri doesn't sell those. You can buy them online and get them delivered to your house. Retail within the state of Missouri, they can't sell them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess the question, whether or not, you got to change the ones you got, but you're right. Kids have hung themselves on them, so it is a danger,
Mm-hmm.
So maybe as you go, I'm just reading this from Anne. If we didn't agree to mediation yesterday, the tenant could stay. Since the tenant owed more than 3,500, we could still set a deadline to pay the remainder. If he doesn't pay, then he's out.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think the tenant gets to stay just because you don't want to do the mediation.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's interesting. Anne, thank you for those comments. And it's interesting that that the mediation person told you 3,500 was the limit. That's certainly a lot more reasonable than the 1,000. And I would talk to Chris or me or somebody before you dismiss your lawsuit based on what these people are representing.
Mhm.
There are people, I won't name names. Some of the tenant attorneys are nice and we get along with them and make deals with them and that kind of thing. But there's a couple who are bad actors and they would lie.
Mhm.
We would tell you that privately, but not
Mhm.
not on the record,
Mhm.
who they are.
That's,
And John's asking everybody to rate us again.
yes, please write a
Thank you.
review.
Thank you.
Yes, an honest 5-star review, and you can honestly do it. Who else would put their time into helping us each week like this? I don't know of anybody else probably in the country that would do this for us, and we do appreciate it very much. Kathy, Chris, and Christina too.
Thanks.
John, do you mind if I just add to that? If you click the link, it takes you on the right-hand side, you'll see Catherine B. Davis, LLC.
Mhm.
Click on Kathy's name, and then it says 15 Google reviews. Since we first announced this, we've gotten 3 reviews, one of them being me. John did one a long time ago. So there are 17 people, there are 25 people on this call. So even if 10 of you did this, this would really be great because some of the reviews on there are just, quite frankly, false. They're from tenants that Kathy, I mean, they're just ridiculous. Read them. They're just so silly.
Yeah.
And I
We
researched.
can laugh at we have those every once in a while. Go back to the one who said Kathy lied about her son being dead, and
Oh, crazy.
That's the one who said I was like the child of the devil or something. Until Michael clued me in about how bad this is for us. We were just laughing at them. I didn't realize I should try to change them. So I appreciate your help very much.
It helps Kathy. It helps Kathy and her business and her business partners stay in business, quite frankly, so she can help all of us who are investors. So there's 25 people on this call. Please go to that link, click on her name, and then click on where it says 15 Google reviews, and you'll be able to review Kathy and her firm.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Please do. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks, Michael. Anything else, anybody? Or
Yeah,
should
this is
we-
Dwayne. I have one
Hey,
question for
Dwayne,
you.
sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was late, but I made a bad decision and got back late. But I saw a note that a judge had asked the sheriff to quit doing evictions because of the CARES Act of people that
Yeah,
earn less.
we talked about that at the beginning. That's in the city. And I was fortunate enough to be able to talk to that judge before he issued his actual order. Just to briefly recap, we got him to stop it at September 1st. We got him to exempt commercial evictions in 441s. This is in the city. And the purpose is to give people time to apply for this money. And we talked about on the city and the county websites, there's links to apply to this federal funding that they have gotten, the city and the county respectively, to pay rents for people. So yeah, you missed kind of a long discussion about that, but that's what's going on.
Okay,
The county is more problematic because they've had an order stopping eviction since March and they haven't modified it and there's no end date to it. We believe in the city that Judge Burleson is going to talk with me again to see about what will happen if he decides to extend it and that kind of thing. And I think if he does extend it past September 1st, I think he's going to be inclined to give us more categories of evictions that we can go on and do. Like people who refuse to respond to the officials that are contacting them to give them rent relief and, you know, that kind of thing.
okay, good. So
Yeah.
far, I don't have anybody behind, so I'm happy.
That is good to hear. That is good to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have the replay for you, a link for that also shortly, Dwayne, so you can watch the whole thing.
Okay, good. Anybody else got anything for us?
Great updates. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. and
Yes,
we'll
thank
talk
you. Thank you.
Next week, yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, guys.
Okay.
Thanks all. Appreciate
Bye.
it. Look forward to next week.